I have followed the Dallas Mavericks. It's not my team, but, I'm well aware of the organization. Jen and I have had some fairly favorable things to say in our brief communications with Mark Cuban. But his decision to sell his interest share in the Dallas Mavericks to the Adelson family is something that I don't think he gets enough criticism for. When you're at that level, I understand it's a small pool in terms of who can afford to purchase a professional sports team, but I'm sure there are other billionaires and other billionaire conglomerates that would have been more than happy to purchase a professional basketball team in the Dallas metro area. That to me, I don't think is a huge stretch. What do you see is this lady's intention? I do believe that the intention from where I stand is to try to tank the franchise as they have done with the Luka Doncic trade and ultimately piss off the fan base so much that they stop coming to games over the next few years, because I don't think they're going to convince the Texas GOP to approve legalized gambling in the state of Texas, and then thereby move the team to Las Vegas. It's already been in talks for a while that Las Vegas, despite all of their problems with clean drinking water, intends to bring all four major sports to Sin City. It doesn't seem like it's that much of a stretch to think that that is one of the potential moves that she's working on. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, and I think you already kind of alluded to it with whether the Texas GOP will allow or support casino gambling in Dallas. I think she probably has some contingencies in mind. And I think that based off of the purchases that Las Vegas Sands made in the Dallas area of property, and my understanding is that the only feasible reason to have acquired that was in speculating about the possibility of being able to expand into casino gaming, because it's unclear what other facilities the Dallas Mavericks would need. They already have their arena. What would be the point of that? So I do think that they probably sincerely do want to get a casino gaming operation going in Dallas. Otherwise, why would you make those acquisitions of the property? But I think you're exactly onto something here, which is that definitely I think a plausible plan B is that they will happily move them to Las Vegas. And I would add that I think it's also worth looking at the history there of the Adelson family in professional sports in Las Vegas, which is that Sheldon Adelson really wanted to have a piece of the Raiders when they were moved to Las Vegas. He supposedly did actually play some roles in helping to broker the deal. He just didn't end up getting to have a piece of the ownership or a piece of the stadium, which had been his and his family's hope. So, and the fact they already own the Mavericks in this case would kind of assure that if they moved them to Las Vegas, they would obviously get to retain ownership and get to be a professional sports franchise owning family in Las Vegas. So I think that's absolutely plausible. I do think that they probably would at least are making a passing effort at seeing if they could get gaming going alongside that in Dallas. But you're right. I mean, listen, the trade was so vastly unpopular, and I think it's really interesting. Dave Zirin does a lot of good coverage of this. That the populist uproar against Miriam Adelson for the trade and for her purchase of the Mavericks goes beyond any of the backlash I've seen of her for her other political activities. But what's interesting is that the people who are getting really pissed off at her because of the perception that her family's, I mean, I don't know if she made the decision about the trade, but that her family's decisions that have been made about the operations of the team seem like it is like snowballing a little bit, where now you hear basketball fans saying, yeah, and I don't like what she's doing with supporting the war in Gaza, or attacking kids on college campuses. And I find it's a really interesting phenomenon. It'll be, if this actually does kind of coalesce together, which I think it is, in some sort of a populist backlash against her. It's something we're going to have to study going forward, because I can't think of like a really comparable thing, right? Where you have this intersection of American sports and politics and foreign policy. And I mean, not to say those things don't intersect, behind the scenes or in ways that you or I pay attention to, but the fact that it's entering like the zeitgeist and people are talking about it, the fact that sports people or sports fans and the sports pundits are engaging with this at some level, that's I don't know, it's uncharted territory, at least for me.
I think it's great though, and I think what's awesome about it is not just that it's introducing a whole new crowd of people to a topic that they might not have otherwise been, interested in, but just that people even know who she is at all.
Yeah.
Generally, oligarchs, for the most part, we know the top few, we know the ones we know, but if there's 60 something people at Davos, we only know a handful of those people, just as public knowledge, right?
Right.
So the fact that more people are meeting this person and seeing who this is good, because this is how they get away with what they do for so long in terms of corruption, in terms of foreign influence, is because most people don't know. So
Absolutely.
the more people that know is good. Now, the thing about the foreign influence, which is so infuriating for me, and I try to explain this to people all the time, if you take out the word Israel and insert the word China in any of these things, people would be livid. Let me tell you, if there was the America-China Public Affairs Committee, people would lose their minds. That would be the end of that. So, the fact that we're so all comfortable with the influence of a foreign government and a foreign national, it isn't even a matter of, to me, dual citizenship, because I don't care if donors have dual citizenship. This is a matter of somebody who's so clearly invested in a foreign entity, and it's just so absurd that we're at this level.
Yeah, this is a family who flew Jonathan Pollard, a convicted spy, out of the country at the end of Trump's first term. And they did so, and I think you're kind of onto something here that, listen, when you have the type of money they have, there's other people that have similar amounts of money. And no doubt, pull the levers of power and exert their influence. But there's something about the Adelsons where they do so, and maybe credit to them. They own it. They're not trying to hide anything, and ultimately that's a good thing if that's the case. Because it'd be better if more people were like that, I suppose. Or there's just a brazen quality to them. And I go back to that story about Jonathan Pollard. There'd been this multi-decade effort to seek clemency for him, or first a pardon, then to have his parole restrictions lifted, and finally Trump, I think it was his parole restrictions were lifted so he could leave the country and go to Israel. And Pollard, his espionage did an enormous amount of damage by all accounts. And he but so the Adelsons had lobbied for this behind closed doors, but it had been known that they had done so. They never concealed it, which is interesting that they've, once again, no issues with that they owned that. But when it was finally time for him to leave the country, it was during COVID. There were limited flights, so you can make the argument that maybe he needed to take a private plane. I don't think there were direct flights from the greater New York area to Tel Aviv at that time. So what would a billionaire who wants to help him out do? Maybe they'd charter a plane for him. Maybe, I don't know. There's a lot of ways you could quietly do this. But I remember, because I was watching that night and I saw the photos, and I remember being like, I know that plane. I know that plane. And it was the Las Vegas Sands livery on it. It was one of the Adelson family's planes. And that, I thought, was an interesting message that was being sent consciously or unconsciously by the Adelson family, which is that they hadn't taken a single step to conceal that they were flying Jonathan Pollard back to Israel. And sure enough, Miriam Adelson took to the pages of the newspaper they own in Israel, Israel Hayom, writing about Pollard's return to Israel, where she said he should be welcomed home as a soldier or a warrior who had been away for very long, and it deserves a quiet retirement. And then she said something that I really found unnerving, where she said, and to our American friends, this is an episode just best forgotten. She's basically telling us, forget what you saw, forget what you know, just memory hole it.